What if daring ambition is the very reason of our downfall? Where in the annals of human history, there lies a powerful foes that had toppled the most mightiest of the empires, shattered dreams and brought even the most greatest personalities to their knees. And what is the reason? That drives us to reach higher and higher, without considering limits or consequences. And yet, there's a force that keeps us in check, that mercilessly shows humanity their mortal limits, their reach limited by their perishable form. But what is this force, this precipice upon which the mortal dare try to tread? What is hubris? From ancient times to the modern age, mortals have tried to create a world where the line between human achievement and divine authority fades away. They have always tried to achieve more, to surpass some greater power, disregarding risks in many ways. They always started a journey of limitless ambition, only to meet with humility, shame and defeat. Hubris is one of the most ancient concepts that acted as a guidance of moral and ethical laws, have always had fascinating stories. These stories where pride, arrogance, selfishness and other flaws that often overtakes over the person, where they would fail to learn their own limits, that would lead them astray. And when they would brag and be prideful to their achievements, often before a god, or have excessive or unnecessary ambition, only to be mercilessly cut down by a divine power, where they would be shown their inferior position before the gods. But this is by no means an order to stop human development, or growth of oneself, neither to settle for less nor to be ambitionless. So let's understand hubris. Is this an implication of an absolute law that must be followed by everyone? Is this a rule created by the gods to keep their fellow mortals in check? Or is this a lesson from the past teachings, the human qualities necessary for this society to function? But for that we need to understand certain things about hubris. The stories, its deeper meaning, and philosophical implications of it. The stories are pretty self-explanatory. Some mortal would have achieved some great accomplishment, and would brag or even challenge the divinity of how great they are than the gods, only to be inevitably battered and humiliated, and often finding tragic end. A classic example of that would be Bellerophon, the demigod son of Poseidon, a prince of Corinth, who helped the king Hubris of Lycia by slaying the terrifying monster Chimera. He struck the terrifying beast with his spear, as he flew gloriously on his divine winged horse Pegasus. His heroic deeds doesn't end there, as he would go on to have successful war campaign against the warlike Solomoi, Tyrian pirates, and even the dreadful Amazons, the bloodlusty daughters of Ares. He was crowned the king of Lycia, and after accomplishing such impossible tasks, his pride would take over his deeds, as he would demand to be respected equally as a god, trying to set foot on heaven itself, declaring himself as an immortal. But as he would fly towards high-peaked Olympus, Zeus, the father of men and gods, would struck him down and blast his pride, where he would fall down from the sky to his doom. Another equally tragic story would be Niobe, queen of Thebes, wife to King Amphion and a proud mother to 14 children, 7 sons and 7 daughters. Yes, she was the proud mother, too proud, too arrogant, that she had to brag of her fertile womb to an immortal goddess of heaven. The goddess Leto, a consort of Zeus himself, mother to Apollo and Artemis, were the target of her insults. And Niobe knew no bound, as she would dare enter Leto's temple and insult the fertility of the goddess, of how failed her motherhood is, giving birth to only 2 children, while as Niobe had given birth to 14. And when hubris nests in the mortal's heart, their doom is sealed. Whereas retribution, Apollo and Artemis would kill Niobe's children for the insult to their mother, and a sad and tragic fate would be waiting Niobe. Icarus would be the most famous example of this case, a young man and his father, who were trapped in the Tower of Crete by King Minos. They would make wings of wax and feathers, and would set them free from their imprisonment. Daedalus would give a fatherly advice to his son Icarus, not to fly too low as the wings may get wet by the sea, not to fly too high for the sun may melt the wax of his wings. But like a carefree young man, Icarus rushes towards the higher sky, and as Helios, the shining pride of heaven, flies across the sky with his chariot, it would melt the wax of Icarus' wings, and his folly would make him fall to the earth beneath to his doom. Or even Phaeton, the very own demigod son of the sun god Helios, when showed his pride of how great of a charioteer he is, and drive the divine sun chariot across the sky, only to fail to control it and put the earth in danger, for the sun chariot is only fitted for a god like Helios, not any other mortals, not even his own son. As a result, Zeus struck him down from the chariot, and Black Death took him to the deeper realm. But what does all this mean? What does this story imply to the general person of the earth? And why does the gods have to be so cruel when punishing the mortals of their seemingly almost negligible mistakes? Can't a simple statement of a mortal can be forgiven by the gods? Or in some cases like Icarus, an inexperienced young boy who unknowingly flew too close to the sun out of his very first received freedom or curiosity, is met with death at a young age? How can this be the foundation for moral guidance for mortals? Well, to begin with it, we must understand the nature of humans in this case and the contributions of the gods. You see, a man, a common man, when he does great things, he is praised, applauded, and cherished by gods and men alike. He travels to the furthest lands, takes the most challenging tasks, and sacrifices his own personal gain for the people, and accomplishes splendid deeds. He becomes so great that even the immortals help them, like we see in the case of Heracles, Perseus, Achilles, and many more. He would be given fame and love as he was almost a god. Yes, almost, but not quite. And greater the accomplishment he has achieved, the more vulnerable he is to hubris. There was no greater hero than Bellerophon in his era, and yet, for his own pride, for his own folly, he was brought down to his knees, his ego destroyed, his pride blasted, his existence erased. For one must remember that no matter how great they are, there are divine authority watching over them, and they just cannot cross the line of insulting that very authority that gives them their gifts. Demeter, the giver of grain and food that the mortals consume. Apollo, the sun under which the very mortals live and depend on. Athena, the mistress of wisdom, and using the same intellect and wisdom, many heroes had accomplished their task. These gods must be respected, for they are the one giving the mortals wonderful skills and wisdom to accomplish their splendid task, and it is regarded ungrateful in the eyes of the immortals to insult or mock the gods. For instance, Eurytus, a famous archer, the one who taught archery to the great hero Heracles, and as he was so great in archery, he challenged the god of the silver bow himself. Apollo descended from heaven, and an archery contest was held between the god of archery and a foolish mortal. Eurytus was shot by an Apollo in the contest and died, for Eurytus failed to understand that his very skill of archery comes from the divine Apollo himself. But hubris is not only pride, but other negative aspects of human character as well: anger, selfishness, or an error of judgment. Oedipus, trying to go against the fate with all his schemes and all his plans, ended up fulfilling his fate anyway. Odysseus, even though his wives have sometimes a victim of hubristic behaviors due to his pride, and was stranded in an island, unable to return home. The greed of Midas of the Golden Touch, who wanted everything he touched turned into gold, as he would also touch his daughter, which eventually would turn into gold, as he would soon come to regret his powers. Narcissus, a young man obsessed with his own beauty, drowned to death. Arachne, the weaver, had pride in her artistic skills and challenged the goddess Athena, the very source of all skills, and was cursed to be a spider. These are regarded as grave mistakes by Greek code of moral. And in the case of Icarus, who was not even displaying any pride or arrogance, well, this story served as a foundation, a symbolism that you are allowed to fly up to a certain height. Fly any higher, overstep your boundaries, and the gods will punish you. The implications are clear. Respect the gods, for they are the source of your greatness. What's the philosophical implications of it? And how is it still relevant today? Well, even from a modern perspective, we understand the deeper implications of such stories, be in a more mythological, theological, or practical sense. Men driven by pride and lust for receiving what is well beyond their boundaries are often regarded as hubris. Although in modern perspective, the word hubris is used in a more political or general term rather than religious phrase, and for politicians and leaders of the state, it is dangerous to make decisions based on their ego and pride. As the ancient Athenian philosopher Socrates warns about such men of power who puts their own interest before the community, who brags of their possession sunken in the obsession of their corrupted wealth. Powerful people and leaders are often the victim of hubristic behaviors and are by many philosophers considered a danger to society. From Homer to Herodotus to Plato to Aristotle, everyone warns of hubris. For in the Greek world there is a cruel counter to hubris, Nemesis, the goddess of cruel justice and divine retribution, daughter to Zeus. And Zeus, the sire of all, the preserver of order on earth, marks humankind and orders Nemesis to deliver her justice to the wretched mortals who fall prey to hubris. It is necessary for a man to grow and become great, but pride and arrogance is often the byproduct of such greatness, and ego often overshadows the deed of a man, and hard they fall by the divine retribution of Nemesis. Throughout history, hubris has been used in many social, political, mythological, and practical ways. Many historic events are regarded as the committing of hubris and their inevitable fall before some sort of symbolic divine retribution. Though rooted in ancient myths, hubris is still relevant today. The overconfidence of individuals, institutes, or even nations can lead to catastrophic outcome, as hubris unveils a paradox in human development. But according to the Greeks, the demise is sure of the man along with his hubris. As Hesiod said, "Through Zeus, mortal men are famed or unfamed, both sung or unsung alike, as great Zeus wills. For easily he makes one strong, and easily he brings up the unsung. Easily he humbles the proud and raises the obscure, and easily he straightens the crooked and blasts the pride of the proudful."